Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus entered a village where a woman whose name was Martha welcomed him. She had a sister named Mary who sat beside the Lord at his feet listening to him speak. Martha, burdened with much serving, came to him and said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me by myself to do the serving? Tell her to help me." The Lord said to her in reply, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and worried about many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken from her." My sisters and brothers, the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
One sentence in the first reading from Galatians, and Galatians is one of those letters that Paul writes, and as we see very much in the beginning, he recognizes, and he has a guilt complex that goes throughout many of the letters, but a guilt complex that can only be filled by that remembering again one more time God's grace. But here we see, leading up to the one sentence I want to mention, he said, "I persecuted the church of God beyond all measure, tried to destroy it, progressed in Judaism beyond many of my contemporaries among my race, since I was even more of a zealot for my ancestral traditions." That he was a zealot. And again, it's a reminder that sometimes, in this case, with him, in his religiosity about being a zealot, that he really was blind to the fact that he was not doing God's loving will. He was doing what he thought was God's loving will. Reminds us we all got to often reflect on that in ourselves. But the one sentence that struck me, then after I went to Arabia and returned to Damascus, and then after 3 years, I went up to Jerusalem to confer with Cephas and remained with him for 15 days. Wonder what those 15 days were like. We obviously don't have a record. And this was after Paul had been 3 years, stepping back, trying to see, Lord, where are you calling me? What are you asking of me? And I got to believe, at least one thing we can surmise is that when he talked to Cephas, he probably, as you see here, said, "Oh, I'm the least worthy of the disciples. I've messed up. I can't believe God wants to use me and is calling me to come to others. I'm just not that worthy." And I can imagine Peter saying, "Well, let me tell you my story. Let me tell you how, I followed Jesus and then I denied him 3 times. Here's the twin leaders of the early birthing of the church. And I'm sure in that conversation, they both thought, how did the Lord choose me? How did the Lord choose you? We messed up royally. And yet the Lord worked through them. And again, can use, and we think of our own lives, he can use our own sin, which again is never right, but he can use our own sin to help us have that deeper sense of a God who is merciful, a God whose grace is gift and everlasting love, a God who can turn our lives around, not just once, over and over again, and trust in that God. And when other people, and lots of people out there do say, "Oh, I can't go back to church. I can't go, be Catholic again." If you only knew the story of my life. And that's when we can say, "Hey, let me tell you the story of Peter's life, of Paul's life," and then make sure to say, "and my own life." I can tell you, the Lord can use you as you are and help you all the more proclaim not how great you are, but how great God is. Let's take that moment and see what we needed to hear. God bless.